People used to treat me like I was nothing, a mere shadow in a crowd, until one act of bravery transformed my life, and I never saw it coming. Standing in the midst of the royal palace, I saw Maya, a little black girl, her wide eyes scanning for help beneath the vibrant banners. Lieutenant James Wilson, a military man bound by rigid protocols, was known for his discipline, yet his gaze was drawn inexplicably to her. The serenity of the palace belied the tension bubbling beneath the surface as Maya silently pleaded for aid, her small frame eclipsed by the towering adults around her. When her uncle yanked her away, a wave of alarm surged through Wilson. The bruises on Maya's wrist didn't lie. Her distress signal, a whispered plea woven into a simple gesture, was enough to rattle his steadfast heart. With every second that ticked by, the weight of duty clashed with his instinct to protect. In that moment, he chose to break protocol. Ty facing the man who claimed to be her uncle. Wilson stood firm as tension crackled in the air. But when Inspector Diana Chun arrived, lending her voice to the urgency of the situation, everything shifted. Witness accounts painted a darker picture, revealing the man's sinister nature. Sebastian Reed, a known trafficker. Just as chaos erupted, and Maya's true identity as Amara Diallo emerged, Wilson's military training kicked in. The confrontation spiraled, yet against all odds, he disarmed Reed and saved her. What began as an individual act of courage unraveled into a chain reaction of change, sparking an international investigation. In that pivotal moment, Amara and Wilson became symbols of hope, their alliance inspiring new protocols for safeguarding children. Together, they began rewriting a narrative that put humanity first, reminding us all that sometimes standing tall means breaking the rules for what's right. Tama's small frame trembled beneath the watchful eyes of the crowd, her gaze darting around the royal palace like a trapped bird. "Help!" she mouthed silently, her tiny hands forming the universal distress signal, desperate yet invisible. Lieutenant James Wilson's heart raced. He straightened, instincts kicking in as he watched the figure looming behind her, her uncle, who gripped her wrist with fingers like vices. "Let her go," he commanded, stepping forward, his uniform crisp against the pastel blooms of the palace gardens. "No one's asking you," the man sneered, twisting Maya's arm further. "Mind your own business, soldier." Wilson felt the surge of authority course through him, but there was tension in the air, thick as smoke. "I won't let her be hurt. Step away from her." Maya's eyes shimmered with tears. She issued another signal, a final cry for help that echoed louder than words in Wilson's mind. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, but few dared to intervene. "Take. Why are you pulling her? What's really going on?" Wilson pressed, feeling the weight of the power imbalance as the man's eyes hardened. "Just taking her home," the man dismissed, his voice oozing contempt and distrust. "You don't know anything." "No," Maya gasped. "He's not my—" But the man clamped a hand over her mouth, silencing her truth like a shroud. Wilson felt the surge of fury. This was not just a minor breach of protocol. This was a child's life hanging in the balance. "Enough!" he shouted, stepping beside the girl, risking everything he'd sworn to protect. Behind him, he could hear the murmurs of onlookers, the frustration rising, and solidarity building as Inspector Diana Chun appeared at the edge of the scene, her eyes narrowing at the man before her. "What's happening here?" she demanded, sensing the bubbling tension. "I suggest you step aside, Inspector," the man warned, but the defiance in Wilson's stance was unyielding. "Ty, this time?" The crowd didn't remain silent. "She needs help." A voice erupted, voices chiming in, echoing Maya's unspoken plea. With every second that passed, Wilson could feel the power shift. The weight of collective strength began to break the sinister grip of one. "I know who you are," Chun finally declared, eyes narrowing at the man. "And you're not taking that girl anywhere." The sun hung low over the royal palace, casting warm hues on the gathered crowd. Among the spectators, a little black girl named Maya stood with wide, watchful eyes. Her small frame trembled, and in that moment, Lieutenant James Wilson, a steadfast soldier bound by rigorous military codes, caught her muted distress. Maya's uncle, an imposing figure, had just grasped her wrist with a grip that promised danger. The sight of bruises peeking from beneath her sleeve sent alarm bells ringing in Wilson's mind. Maya's eyes darted, and in a heartbeat she made a subtle yet profound signal. The universal sign for help. A fist raised, then fingers extended, then tucked away. It was simple yet profound, a soundless cry echoing against the pomp of the palace. Wilson's heart raced as he struggled with protocol. To act would be to defy the rigid rules he had sworn to uphold, yet inaction felt like betrayal. The tension thickened as the uncle yanked Maya closer, refusing to meet Wilson's gaze. Just then, Inspector Diana Chun arrived, her presence adding weight to the scene. Witnesses around them began to murmur, recalling the man's aggressive demeanor. Another layer of urgency thickened the air. Then an unsettling recognition. A name whispered in hushed circles. Julian Mercer, a known trafficker. Wilson felt a surge of resolve. The fabric of his world, one of order and discipline, frayed, revealing the cold truth beneath. Maya wasn't just a girl in peril. She was a key player in a darkness far more extensive. With renewed determination, he stepped forward, ready to challenge everything he'd known. Maya stood amidst the bustling crowd outside the royal palace, her heart racing but resolve solid. With a fleeting glance, she made the secret distress signal, an invisible thread connecting her to the royal guard standing sentinel. Lieutenant James Wilson, trained to uphold centuries of protocol, felt an electric charge as his eyes met hers. Maya, her uncle grunted, yanking her arm, oblivious to her silent plea. Wilson's pulse quickened, registering the bruises forming on the girl's delicate wrists. He could no longer ignore the fear etched across her face. In a rare moment of clarity, Wilson stepped forward. "Excuse me, sir," he said, his voice steady but firm, defying the weight of tradition. The man scoffed, but Wilson didn't waver. "Let her go." "Who do you think you are?" the uncle jeered. But Wilson only met the man's gaze, heart pounding with the courage that surged through him. That's when Inspector Diana Chun emerged, her eyes sharp with understanding. "We need to talk to her. Now." The crowd began to murmur, whispers of the uncle's unusual behavior rippling through. Wilson relished the small victory of others observing, supporting him as he stood his ground. A tense moment escalated, revealing the man's true identity. "That's Julian Mercer," Chun exclaimed, the implications unfolding rapidly. Wilson felt the veils of restraint drop, heroic instincts rising. "Let her go," Wilson commanded, instinctively disarming Mercer as panic ignited. The chaos pulsed around them, but in his heart, he had reclaimed his purpose. After the rescue, applause echoed as Maya, now revealed as Amara Diallo, stood tall beside Wilson. As they exchanged silent acknowledgments, a new resolve buzzed in the air. Discussions began for the Wilson Protocol, proposing that the safety of every child would come before age-old traditions. In that instant, the burden of the past lifted, replaced by hope as Amara whispered, "Thank you." Their bond, forged in courage, signaled a shift, a promise that kindness could indeed reshape the fabric of safety and assert the power of individual action against adversity. Lieutenant James Wilson stood stiffly among the rows of soldiers, the sun glinting off his uniform as he scanned the crowd. He caught a glimpse of a little black girl, Maya, her bright eyes darting around in desperation. She was different from the sea of tourists, drawing his focus with her silent plea. A moment later, her small hand suddenly made the universal distress signal, two fingers circling, a cry for help unseen by most. His heart raced as Maya's uncle, a burly man with a menacing glare, yanked her away, his fingers digging into her skin. Wilson couldn't shake the image of the bruises on her wrists. 100 years of protocol screamed at him to remain in formation, but as he made eye contact with Maya, something shifted within him. "Stay put," he commanded to his comrades, breaking formation. He stepped forward, confronting the man. "Let her go." The uncle scoffed, defensive but visibly shaken. Wilson stood his ground, imposing yet calm, giving the little girl a moment to breathe amid the chaos. In that silent triumph, he saw Maya's hope flicker back to life. Inspector Diana Chun arrived moments later, the air thick with tension. She assessed the situation quickly, eyes narrowing on the uncle's flustered demeanor. "We're investigating," she announced, her tone unyielding. As witnesses began to speak out, the truth unraveled. Underneath the man's shifty bravado, his identity as Julian Mercer, a notorious trafficker, emerged. Suddenly, the stakes elevated. Maya was not merely a child, but Amara Diallo, daughter of a key witness against a vicious cartel. In an instant, Mercer lunged, weapon drawn, but Wilson's training kicked in. He disarmed the man, the weapon clattering against the marble floor, echoing through the palace grounds. The stunned crowd watched as security quickly apprehended Mercer, justice crashing down around him like a fortress. In the aftermath, applause erupted, not for Wilson's bravery alone, but for the newfound courage ignited in Amara's eyes. As officers discussed the necessity of the Wilson Protocol for child distress signals, a small spark of hope ignited. Maya, now Amara, looked up at Wilson, her gratitude evident. Together, they exchanged a silent recognition of the power they held. Not just in one act, but in the promise of change, her small signal weaving into a tapestry of resilience. In that moment, the palace felt transformed, filled with unity and purpose. The air buzzed with unspoken vows. The protocols of the past would evolve, and in breaking them, hope was born anew. As I look back on that day in the palace, I realize how one decision changed everything. Breaking protocol wasn't just about a soldier's duty. It was about listening to a silent plea. Seeing Maya, Amara, standing there, her eyes wide with fear, ignited something undeniable within me. I had always believed in following rules, in the honor of my position. But witnessing her distress made me question what it truly meant to protect. The chaos that ensued was surreal. In that moment, I didn't just save a girl from danger, I stepped into the daunting world of justice, where bravery and compassion fought against the shadows of indifference. The incident unveiled more than the identity of a trafficker. It opened my eyes to a deeper understanding of power dynamics, those who are meant to guard and those who need safeguarding. Do you think I went too far? Would you have made the same choice? Have you ever felt helpless like Amara? Share your thoughts and experiences. Let's engage in a conversation about what it means to act when it matters most. Your voice is a part of this story, and every comment adds to our collective journey towards justice and compassion.